This is Willpower.
It's an honor and a pleasure to have Vince Pitstick here with me today on the Willpower podcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
I'm very glad to be here. Nice to meet you and virtually.
Yeah, virtually we get a chance to meet. And I was just saying to you off mic that, I've been following you for some time and really feeling like I want to call you a crusader, a health crusader. And just really bringing to the forefront these things in such a practical way that are like hot topics and on trend, and doing some dispelling and whatnot, but especially and specifically the work that you've brought to the table and a lot of the content that you bring around the female health landscape has been super helpful for me. And I do tend to lean a lot into like the female warriors of the world in that regard, but you always bring it in such a practical way and such a ways that I feel that are super approachable. So I'm really appreciative of that specific work in the world. And I know you do so much else. You do so many other things as well.
Sure. No, but my primary focus has been on mastering, because if you master the woman's metabolism and health issue, you've mastered it all. Okay. Because women are more complex and hormonally and through many of the different pathways that make up a wonderful, diverse, complex woman. Right. Yeah. In all of her wonder. But that's where a lot of the, some of the unexplained things about human health reside, and is also under-researched and underrepresented. And so that's where I found myself. I mean, I grew up with an, only child with a single mom. So I spent much of my life in my younger years catering to women. Let's put it that way. And so it just naturally came to me. It was a gift, to be honest with you, because your gift makes room for you, and it just kept showing up. And it was the thing that I kept feeling called to do, and it broke the door open for anybody. Now, of course, I work with a lot of different customers and things in our health network, works on all kinds of conditions and athletes and celebrities and all that kind of stuff. A big part of my primary passion. I'm also working with Bill Campbell now at USF. We're looking at focusing on proving that weight loss resistance exists, because it is real. It is heavily affecting the female population, and it is currently thought of as something that doesn't exist, like the Loch Ness Monster. And we're going to prove that it does. And so we're working with him. We're going to start with menopause. We got a menopause survey coming out. I'm co-authoring with him, and then hopefully a lot of work to come, so that we can actually bring what we know is truth and functional when we see in clinical evidence. And bring it, that and all the diseases that end up being, women are 80% of long hauler COVID sufferers are women, 80% of autoimmune sufferers are women, 85% of idiopathic long-term health issues are women, and they are highly misrepresented. And so, if it's not us, then who? And if it's not now, then when? So, a lot of work in that area.
Yeah, it's so important. Like this underrepresentation that you talk about is just, every 5 years they come out with like how far we've come in the women's health studies, and the needle doesn't get moved. Yeah. And that feels really, daunting, I think, to be a female in the health space. So just backing out to 10,000 feet, you were discussing this beautiful thing about, functional health and coining the phrase. I really want you to talk specifically about just that and some of the work that you've done as a platform, so that people kind of get to know you. And for everyone out there who's listening, this is a man to follow. This is a man to follow, whatever physiology you come in, because you're a straight shooter.
Well, I got my certification by life. At 8 years old, I was struck with a very, very rare physical and mental disorder, idiopathic. We didn't know where it came from. And nobody knew what it was at the time. I'm showing my age a little bit, but it was many, many years ago. First, it was just my behavioral issues. Then they tried to throw every diagnosis under the sun at me and throw every pill at me. And I got pretty much let down by the medical system from a very, very early age. And then I had to start this journey of just searching the world of the holistic and the standard Western medical system to try to solve a problem that no one knew how to solve. And you feel very alone. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be in the middle of a storm and start to ask yourself, is this what life is going to be like forever? And I never want anyone else to feel like that again, because I know that void. I've been there. I visited. I never want to go back. I spent 20 years of my life there. And so it started a journey of me learning about all areas of health outside of Western medicine, overcoming it with a collaboration of nutrition, fitness, holistic medicine, and therapy. And then coming out of that that experience, I always had a desire to help people. And so I ended up getting into the health field in nutrition and personal training. But then I built this really big program that included chiropractic, Reiki, labs. This is 18 years ago, right? Like no one was doing this, right? There was no one. But I knew you needed all these things. So when someone would come into me as a trainer or as a nutritionist, be like, I need to lose 30 pounds. I'm like, man, you got way more going on than that. Like you gained the 30 pounds for root cause reasons, and you think it's your stomach that's the root of your problems. That's the symptom, right? And so it's like, okay, so let's solve the problem. So I saw myself as a problem solver, not necessarily a nutritionist or personal trainer or doctor or this or that or whatever. Yeah. But then I got picked up by a global health organization, and I got to train under Dr. Jeffrey Bland at a company called Metagenics out in Gig Harbor, Washington, and San Clemente, California. And I learned I got to learn the science that existed in functional medicine, and it blew my mind. Again, functional, all that means for anyone listening is root cause. Okay. So it's like, instead of Western medicine, which is symptom-based medicine, or symptom, meaning that I have a symptom. What system is it in? I have fatigue. Is it in your thyroid? Let me give you thyroid medicine. That would be
right. You can't be connected to anything else.
Right. That would be how deductively or inductively is actually the reasoning, how you work through that. That's how they solve problems. In functional medicine, it's like, okay, I have fatigue. All right, what are all the root cause reasons for that? Let's look at a thorough assessment of your diet, the different systems of your body, your mental state, emotional state, what's your lifestyle habits like, what is your family life like? Let's look at everything and then start with those things, and then usually the fatigue goes away.
Yeah.
So that's deductive versus inductive.
Yeah.
And so that's why
people are getting more and more familiar with this landscape as well, because it's never a slight to say Western medicine, let's throw it out the window, right? There's been some gains, and there's some places where people have acute issues that need to be helped and all of that. But there's more and more in the forefront, like this functional versus sort of the archaic system of Western medicine. I see this all the time in work. It's like 20 years of research in order to test anything, in the medical world, in the traditional medical world, whereas why I think the biohacking landscape, and I want to kind of get your take on that, on that term as well. Yeah. Where people are like, well, biohacking is the fringe, functional is in the middle where maybe we want to be playing, and then Western is sort of the past. Yeah.
Yes. And Western medicine still has many benefits. It's just not, it couldn't be the primary medicine served to everybody first. We say functional first. Okay. You should be starting functional and then moving to acute medicine. Yeah. Don't come to me for a gunshot wound. Right. But for everything else in advance, let's try to get it. Right. And that way. So anyways, I ended up being the consultant behind some of the biggest doctors in the country because I became a functional medicine consultant. And I worked with all the best doctors in the country. And I saw how they had a 90-degree view of a 360-degree problem. I took all of those things, collaborated them together in a process we call the 4F process. And now we deliver that technology as a healing system into practices. We train it to coaches, and it's in 2,000 practices across the country right now. And it's usually that people, about 2 to 3 million people run through that process a year. And that's kind of just understanding how that kind of works. And so we coined the term. So as we want to train people to do this, anyone can do this, right? The 4F process, you can learn supplements, nutrition, and the whole thing, and how to heal people. You can learn that, and use it yourself. And then it's called the 4F technology. And we do that at our university, Metabolic Mentor University. But we had to there was no term for it. Functional health coaching is the term that we created about 15 years ago. And now it's all over. And it's been such a pleasure to see how the market's going this direction, and people are really beginning to get tired of just pills, and they want something more. They just don't know what more is, and they don't know how to do it, and they don't know what good looks like in this area. They don't know how to evaluate performance or who should I trust. And that's why it gets really, really confusing out there. It's like trying all kinds of stuff and hoping it sticks. And so that's what my network is there, is it's our own functional medicine online health network that can work with someone anywhere in the world. We have all of our own doctors, dietitians, nutritionists, trainers, all in one, delivered to you in the comfort of your own home. And so that's where things are going.
Training the next wave of the army feels really important. You're like training the next wave of the army for like coaches and people who want to get more into this. So It
We are
doesn't feel.
raising an army. We are raising an army to take the fight because it's going to take one person helping another person to deal with a social problem. You're not going to policy your way out of disintegrating American health. You're not going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have, you said earlier, I don't want to get too political, but it's like, I just would love to kind of hear your thoughts on the battle cry of what is happening in the world of health right now. And let's just say North American landscape, and, people who are wanting to kind of lean in more deeply to support the charge. Like what's your feeling on the common person being like, hey, I'm seeing what's happening, and there's an issue in the world, and people around me are getting sick all the time. And, what can the common person do to kind of lean into that?
Well, there's been a big change. There was really no political party to support for a while because everyone's making money on it. We are cattle. Okay. We are consumers. We are trained to be consumers, not creators, right? So we consume instead of create. And that consumption creates profitability in all areas of our economy. And so no one really wants to approach the problem because everyone's making money on the problem. And so there really wasn't a political candidate because they wouldn't run on the issue that affects 6 out of 10 of Americans right now. And by 2030, 7 out of 10 people in the United States and globally, by the way, 7 out of 10, according to NATO, NIH, you give me the letters and I'll tell you they report the same thing. 7 out of 10 people will have a lifestyle disease that significantly either reduce their lifespan, takes away their vitality, steals their joy, steals all of the wonderful things that life has to offer. And it does it slowly. It is insidious. It is taking 1% from you every day, and you do not know it. It is the silent killer, but it is the pandemic of our time. And people are not taking it seriously because it seems to come on so slowly, but then they take they pan out and take a look at the view. If you look at a group of people in the United States, you're going to see how sick we are. And the ones that are really sick, Kristen, are no longer in public. Home care is the fastest growing part of medicine because people get so sick, they just stay in their homes and they get treated at home. And you don't see them anymore. If everyone in your town had to come outside at the same time, you would see what I'm talking about how bad it's actually getting. You would be visibly concerned and you would start asking yourself, like any courageous, caring human being, what the hell are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
And my solution to that is called the 1 in 100, where we educate people, we get people involved as mentors and coaches on what the healthy lifestyle looks like, get people back on their feet, and then get them helping others. Just like nursing. Nursing was a revolution. Health coaching is the next revolution over the next 10 years. You can mark my words on that. That's what's coming. And because it's got to be one person helping another. That's the only way that this works. You're not going to listen to a senator tell you like, hey, don't drink pop or put it, like they did in New York or something. They try to get it where you could only get 16 ounces of pop. And then people, instead of getting to 24, just bought 2 16s, right? It doesn't work that way. And so RFK, say what you want about RFK, he's been the first politician that's bringing it to light about the concerns about the medical system, about how bad it's actually getting. So it's the first time in history where we really had a politician that was really willing to talk about the uncomfortable thing. And so that makes me excited that it's going to become a part of the national conversation. If something was affecting 7 out of 10 people in the United States, don't you think it would be in the news every single day? You get 2 cases of Ebola in New Hampshire and it's all over the news for 12 weeks. But people are dying in droves and no one's talking about it. So this is my hope.
Yeah, this is, and the other thing I want to highlight is I'm noticing this more and more with clients and like just what's been, we're in this election yesterday and the political climate and stressors and everybody's, a little uprooted over what's the future hold and all of that. I just, at the level of conversation around how people are having dis-ease states and things that are keeping them in their homes, I think that there's like the part of this big, the real pandemic I talk about a lot is like people are navigating anxiety, depression, and loneliness in a way and at numbers like we've never seen before. And some of these people are walking around on the street and they look okay, right? They look fine because they're in their world of constructs and they have to go to their job or they have to do whatever. But are you noticing and seeing some of this like rise of sort of, mental well-being? How how do we unwind that?
Most people, and not for nothing, we have the largest one-on-one functional health coaching company in the United States. Most of these people, when we track their histories, it started with a trauma in the home. It started with an inappropriate environment that gave you the wrong narratives and beliefs about what life is and how to live that life, which then leads to imbalanced lifestyle choices, which then leads to disease. So you think that you're simply going to change everything about your life by changing a dietary habit alone. While that's a good start and it's on the journey, most people, Kristen, what they need, the truth is, what they need is another person who has gone through what they've gone through. It's the 12-step model. I've been where you are. I've been where you are. I lived it and I know the way out. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a world's expert. You need someone that you can trust that will be there to hold you accountable, walk you through it, and tie things in together. Like, it's like most people, if they let's say they're really overweight and they don't feel good, they would need a nutritionist. They would need someone to teach them how to be active. They would need at least a doctor or someone who understands general labs to make sure that they're going in the right direction. If you could get all that in one person or one program, and that person touched base with you every week to give you the human connection of healing, that's why nursing's more important than penicillin or anything, because the human element of healing cannot be removed from healing.
Yeah.
And the models are showing that most Americans are going to end up entering their symptoms on a website for ChatGPT. It's going to spit out a protocol and Amazon's going to drop off your prescription. And if you think that that's going to lead to better health, you are sorely mistaken. You don't understand how health happens. It is a balance of the body, mind, and spirit. And then when we start getting sick, that is not the cause. That's the symptom of these things being off, right? And so when people don't understand that, they just are going to keep trying to solve the problem the wrong way. And so for the rest of us, human connection and someone that can coach you and guide you, we've forgotten how to live. We don't know how to live because we didn't start living balance. We live in this new first world technology-laden environment, and we've lost the basics, and we don't know our way back. And so that's why it's going to take one person helping another. And that's why anyone listening to this needs to get educated so they can teach their kids, their friends, their family. Because if they don't, I'm telling you, in a couple years, everyone around you that you care about is going to be sick.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. And also there's a notion of you can building community and the power of human touch, right? I talk as a breathwork and a cold exposure coach and working to build communities. I talk about the power of human touch and connection. It doesn't have to be necessarily physical touch. And also when you are feeling strife and strain and challenges and feeling like in a silo with whatever your dis-ease state is or whatever negative health things are going on in the world, it's like people being around you, whether that's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, people being around you can really change the game. And whether that's someone who's like a paid coach, like you're talking about, that's giving you accountability, or someone in your family, which is always where the rub exists because I coach my mom. Do you think she listens? No. So she needs someone else, right? 2 years later, she's like, hey, I went to Nancy, who's the functional person, and she told me this. And I'm like, I've been telling you that for 2 years. But we have to find the right people for our communities and then be these lighthouses in our communities in such a deep way. Because championing this cause about having more community and people and connection or coaching in your life. And again, is the thing that's like, do you want to spend a little bit of money and time and effort now, or do you want to really have to spend a lot of money on the back end because you're in an acute phase of something?
Yeah, either way, it's going to cost you. What are you trying to pay? In losing moments, vitality, sex drive, just your key moments in life, or do you want to pay in some effort and resources like financial? You're paying. How are you going to pay is the question. How do you want to lay out into your life? But that's what we mean. We mean the human connection with coaching. Coaching is the future. This is just the beginning. When you look at the models of nursing over the course of 80 years went from 100 nurses in the United States to 4.4 million once adoption happened. Coaching is going to become a preferred platform. They might give it different names. I don't care what name you give it.
Yeah.
will become the preferred distribution of health services in the future. You have the biggest healthcare companies in the country are already looking at health coaching forecasting models. Like, it is the future. And the more that we get involved now, we get to dictate what that future looks like. And having people like RFK and others close to the president who can bring light to how serious this is really going to champion our cause. And so I am fired up for the next 4 years, because I personally, before I leave this earth, plan on leaving an organization that continues on after me, continuing to help others. And that's what it's going to take, because no one's coming to save us, right? Yeah. Everyone's making money on it. No one's coming to save us. We got to do it.
No one wants a broken model because it's lucrative. I mean, we want to fix the broken model, but there's a very large populace of people that doesn't. And the other thing I want to just dive into a bit with you is just some of the, look, I'm going to call them shortcuts, and I don't want to I'm not trying to raise the flag to create controversy, but just some of the shortcuts in the world when it comes to, this peptide medication for rapid weight loss, for like just how people are utilizing some of these tools when it comes to Mounjaro, semaglutide, and other things that everyone's looking for the pill, the shot, the powder. And this is still what clients come to me for. What's the easy button? And there is none.
Yeah. So let's give people context. So just everybody knows, personal trainer, launched a whole health network. Now I have my own medical clinics that also do functional medicine, where they'll use peptides, hormones, compounds, usually in conjunction with nutrition and diet that's being run by a coach. So I run Vital Med. Vital Med only works with functional medicine companies that are like coaching clients, and they refer them in. And then we do take some outside clients, but that was our preference. So we use a lot of biohack tools all the time, and then we do it at high volume, and then we see what the outcomes are. Yeah. And one of the tools,
you have a large enough population to really be able to speak on this with a high level of intelligence.
Yeah, there's a lot of biohack tools out there, and only some of them are really worth your time, and the rest are just fun. Some of them are just fun. Like, have fun. Like, life's short.
The last 10%. I'm like, the last 10%. Great. Let's not start with the last 10%. Let's start with the stuff that works deeply.
Yeah. What are going to be the staples? And then what's like stuff I can seasonally add in? The could, would, and should model, like, or, should, would, and could. It's like, so it's like, which ones of those do I have to do? And so coming back, peptides is the future. Peptides will be everything. Everybody's going to be taking peptides at some point, whether you know it or not. Peptides is the future of like medicine, and a nice blend with functional medicine. I've been saying that for the last 10 years, and now look where we're at. Now, there is using any tool that is really great, like the internet, okay? The internet, the number 2 reason it's used is for pornography, okay? Does that make the internet bad? No, it just means that anything powerful humans will misuse. Okay, all right. So we're going to go in with that wisdom and understanding. Because when you hear a lot about the word semaglutide, or you hear the word about Wegovy or whatever, people are judging it like politics based on the polar opposites. Okay. So it's like, oh, you hear one person was just, most people that don't understand what it is or how it works won't understand that it is one of the greatest potential healing tools if used in its correct context, for a short amount of time, or for a certain amount of time, with nutrition and counseling. Just like listen, anxiety medicines, SSRIs, listen, I'm not a huge fan of these, and I don't like them long term because the research isn't good. But in 8-week models, anti-anxieties and SSRIs, like it or not, I'm holistic. I go holistic functional first. I would not use these things. But you give those with therapy, they can be extremely effective, and then you get off and then you go on with your life. That was supposed to be the plan for most of these things, but that's not how the money's made. We want dependency, and we want you to stay on them, and we want to diagnose you with a condition that you live with your whole life so that you get the medicine your whole life. Do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Semaglutide and GLPs are going to be no different. Okay. So when you get the body to actually microdosing,
Pitstick, I want to just put out in the world, like a lot of what semaglutide and these peptides, this category of peptides is commonly known as the pharma name, right? Like Ozempic. That's what people talk about a lot now as one of them.
Yeah. Now, so understand that it's been, so let's go back just 2 seconds. Understand the research. It's one of the most researched things in the country. It's been researched since 1970. It's not new. I used to work when I was a consultant, I would work in type 2 diabetic clinics. Mm-hmm. And metformin one day just stopped working because there's a mechanism of action that gets turned off and your body adapts to metformin. And then your sugars skyrocket and you're worse on it than you are off it. And then these people were not doing well. It's screwed. And so they started looking for different research. How do we offset what's happening here? Okay. So what happens is that when you take metformin and you stop dumping sugar from your liver, your body does this interesting thing where it will start dumping a lot more glucagon to try to force your liver to drop the sugar. Okay. So if you understand the pancreas, alpha cells release glucagon, beta cells release insulin. Okay. So interestingly enough, people should know that very much like the person who relies on metformin, if you are a chronic dieter, or if you stay too low calorie, or you don't rotate your food and you stay no carb for too long, or whatever, or if you overtrain for too long, it can drive your insulin too low. And in response to that, your balance of glucagon and insulin gets off. So now you're dumping more sugar from your liver from glucagon, and you're not releasing enough insulin to clear it. So you can overfeed your way into high sugar insulin insensitivity, and you can actually chronically diet your way into high sugars and insulin insensitivity. Okay. Because it's a bell curve. Human existence is on a bell curve. So whether you live in the over or in the under, your body will actually break down in a very similar way because it's outside the natural balance. And people have a hard time understanding this. So there are many people that are out there in the world right now that have chronically dieted themselves into weight loss resistance that are now gaining weight like a person that eats a lot of food. There are diseases that are being formed because people cannot lose weight or their sugars are just staying high, even though they're eating healthy. Okay. But there's also people that are just the other 50% of the population that is overeating and inactive. Right. But those people also have a hard time losing weight because it starts causing hormonal imbalance and insulin insensitivity. And when they do lose weight, they don't lose the right weight. They don't lose the fat. They lose the muscle. Chronic dieting usually screws people over in the end because they've ate too much muscle and then gained too much fat back. So then by the time they're 35, they're wondering why their metabolism doesn't work and their glucose is elevated. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I see this all the time, especially, I hate to say this, but I'm mostly working with females. I see this all the time with this like under eating cycle and this chronic diet culture. Yeah. It's like doing more damage than anyone could actually even imagine.
Yes. Yes. So now your body, no matter whether you're overweight from overeating and inactive or from overtraining, overstressing, undereating, I don't really care which one. Now your body has adjusted itself to an environment that is unsuccessful surviving in a high calorie, high carbohydrate environment. So now if you can't burn those calories, disease is coming for you. This is why people need to be afraid if your metabolism seems to be declining. It is a biomarker of health. Like if I could eat 2,000 calories and lose weight, and then 18, and then 16, and now 12, and now I got to do 1,000 calories and I got to kill myself in cardio in the gym, you, my friend, are in more trouble than you think. Because if I eat over 1,200 calories and I gain weight, that means that my metabolism is not going to be successful in this high calorie, high carbohydrate environment that we live in. And if your body is not successful in the environment that you live in, you will end up with a less optimal life and you will end up with some form of disease. And that's why women, one of the first things that happens to them is their metabolism starts to go. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, they've got Hashimoto's, they've got PCOS, they've got, infertility. Because when you can't consume and process the calories that have just come in and use the energy appropriately, it leads to inflammation in your body. And then that leads to system breakdown. Okay. So this is why we come back to this conversation. So it creates hormonal misalignment. And so with the right clients at Vital Med or at our coaching company, Vital Coaching, if their sugars are really high and when they go to cut their carbs, their sugars don't decline, or they go on keto and their sugars don't come down, like menopause. Menopause is a really interesting area because they have imbalances from going into obviously their hormones were shut off, they've gone into menopause, and then it leads to an upregulated pro-inflammatory state. So now everything gets worse because their immune systems are upregulated, causing a pro-inflammatory state. So now even their hormones from insulin to glucagon and how they metabolize glucose change. And you'll see their LDL cholesterol goes up, sugars go up, right? And you'll look at their insulin and it's not high. It's actually low.
And some of what you're speaking about right now too, while we see people who are going into keto and working on trying to get ketogenic, but then they just can't kind of pop the numbers that are actually putting them in ketosis because there's other things beneath the surface going on.
There is a physiologic reason that is happening. That is called, and people, this is where I'm going to drop a term that you've probably never heard before, but it is the reason that people's metabolisms are slowing down. It's called immunometabolism, and the condition's called immunosenescence. And what that means is that as you're getting older, the more oxidative stress that you are under damages cells, particularly immune cells. These cells then don't go through normal apoptosis. At the end of their life, they do not blow themselves up and then get liquefied and absorb into the other cells. No, they sit in there and they hold. They're not metabolizing glucose. They're dumping inflammation. And then anytime that you get stressed, whether it's emotional or physical or chemical, it stimulates that to release more inflammation. This pisses the immune system off, and then it gets more active looking at these cells. These cells build up and they start slowing down your metabolic rate. This is a real thing. You all can look it up. You're going to be like, why did no one tell me this? Well, I've spent 18 years only doing this, trying to figure out what is not being covered enough in research to explain all the disease that we're seeing in the world. It doesn't make sense. We have more pills, more doctors, more procedures, more drugs, and yet our disease is growing at all-time rates. It makes no sense. When you get down to it, menopause is a perfect example. When your hormones go to zero, it pisses your immune system off. It overactivates, which will expand your lifespan, which is why women technically live longer than men. Also, you have to take out men engage in more risky behavior. But even taking that out, women's lifespans are still longer. And it's because of their upregulated immune systems. If you talk to a menopausal female, you'll find out that she feels like crap, but she never gets the cold or flu. Because it's overactive. It's making her feel like crap and it's causing a lot of her problems. But at the same time, she's not going to get the common cold. So she'll live longer, but suffer more chronic conditions because your immune system is a pro-inflammatory system. When it's active, it's creating inflammation. So that's why you swollen and you're tired and you don't know where your energy went, your sex drive's going. You don't even know why. It's because your body's kind of acting like you're sick all the time when you're not sick. And we call this condition, we call it OID, overactive immune disorder. Okay. And so, but one of the things
and that people of all ages as well, this like keto phenomenon thing that comes up at all ages.
Happening faster. The more vaccines, the more oxidative things you do to your body, the more that you eat processed foods, the more that you have toxic emotions, the more that you consume people's opinions and CNN and the stress, the oxidative stress that builds up, it damages cells. So they're starting to see it in children as young as 5. That's why 1 in 4 children have some form of hyperglycemia or prediabetes. You can't eat enough ho-hos to get prediabetes by 10 years old. It's physiologically impossible unless there's another inflammatory oxidative resource that is going on coinciding with it. And so it's happening in us sooner and sooner and sooner. And so what people should know is that your body has a natural process for getting rid of these cells. It's called autophagy. But when your blood sugars get higher and they sit there, and I even mean high 90s, because we're supposed to be low 80s, 70s. You were in your teens and your early 20s. And the more metabolically inefficient you get, the more sugars start to bump up and bump up and bump up. And we just call that age. No, that's called inefficiency. And that doesn't have to come with age. And that inefficiency, as your sugars go up, your body then can't get into autophagy and eat those cells out and heal bad cells the more your sugars go up. So one of the crazy discoveries is that by using it with nutrition, okay, under advisement, making sure your protein intake is adequate, making sure that you're active so you don't lose muscle, micro-dosing semaglutide will drop your sugars to allow you to get into autophagy, which is why it's being used for autoimmune disorders, which is why it's being used for so many different conditions. Do not get it confused, people, when you listen to this podcast and confuse these amazing tools for what, assholes are doing out there to stay thin. Okay? Big effing difference. So let's not demonize the whole thing because you don't know what you're talking about, right? We are healing the rarest conditions on planet Earth, micro-dosing semaglutide. And I'm proud of it, right? Now, what I will tell you is that anyone who wants to take semaglutide, you need to do it with coaching, okay? Because you have to have someone to make sure you maintain body composition, that you learn how to eat healthy, that you don't become dependent on the drug, which is by the way, it's not a drug, it's a peptide. Even though it's prescribed as a drug, your body makes it, okay? Is bioidentical testosterone, is that a bad thing? No, not if you need it, not if you're like low and you want to balance it out. But if I want to go ahead and I want to take 400 milligrams every day to get as jacked as Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah, that might be a problem, right? But don't confuse, that doesn't make testosterone bad. It's how we use it, right? That will decide ultimately whether it was a good or bad thing for me. Yeah. And so, for example, VitalMed, my company VitalMed, you can check it out, vitalmed.com. You can pretty much get semaglutide at a really low price, but you have to get coaching with it. If you don't get coaching with it, we ain't doing it because I ain't going to be part of the problem. I don't want to get you hooked on something and make a bunch of money on you and then live in Tahiti and not sleep at night because I'm a piece of, POS. I don't want to do that, right? But if you're going to do it, okay, then do it with advisement because it can be a great thing. Very microdose. Get your training going, get the glucose, get your sugars down, because now you're going to burn fat faster. You're going to get rid of these bad cells and you're going to reset your body. If you don't do it that way and you just undereat and you're not doing anything that's like nutritionally right and you're not training, you're going to eat muscle, you're going to get dependent on it, and then it's going to stop working. And then just so everybody knows, this is the game that they're playing with you. You start on semaglutide and it's not that expensive. Then it stops working. And then you got to go to Triz. And Triz is more expensive. And now they got the new one coming out. That's so expensive.
Pitstick. Just for the common listener, yeah.
This is a plan by the drug companies. You have to understand you are getting set up. Okay? They're going to hook you on the lower cost stuff and then force you into the stuff that's going to cost $900 a month. And take your money. That's what's coming. They are going to put, you guys just need to understand, I'm Orwellian with my thoughts here, but everyone in America is going to be on semaglutide. That's their plan, or a version of it, because no one knows how to take care of themselves. So it's like going to be something that just holds your weight back. It can be something that fixes or optimizes your metabolism, okay, used correctly. If used incorrectly, it is going to be an addictive life sentence.
And do you want to talk about like maybe one other peptide just out of this category specifically that you're really sort of like hot for? You're seeing a lot of positive things come out along with coaching, et cetera. I know there's so many, but just is there another one that right now you're like really just vibing with?
There's a couple. I think there's so many new ones coming out that are friggin' incredible. I think the one that I'm most excited about right now that is also in the market is something called KPV. And it's a proline valine like a mixture, and what it is an incredible anti-inflammatory particularly for women that are dealing with just idiopathic inflammation, meaning that they don't know where it's coming from, right? I'm just swollen, my joints hurt, I'm tired. KPV, thymosin alpha 1. These are the ones that I'm really interested in, that I really like. I mean, of course, there's so many we could talk about. in terms of keeping muscle mass and upregulating your metabolism.
Right. And it's all very, this is why I always say context is king, right? It's like who's showing up in front of you and what are the deficiencies they have, and then how can we work in that, or what are the lifestyle choices that they're willing to shift in alignment with a specific peptide. Do you have an opinion on the like bioregulators and some of these like pills and things that are much smaller?
I don't know if you've had other people on. I don't want to upset anybody, but I'm just going to tell you it's relatively untested. It's not been around long enough, in my opinion. There's not enough clinical evidence for it. I've seen them. They can be useful, but they're not worth, in my opinion right now, I don't spend the cost. We are investing in them to investigate them more. It does look like it could be an exciting emerging field, but right now, a lot of people are selling a lot of BS. A lot of people.
Right, like you're buying something that shows up. If you were actually to test it, it doesn't have in it what it says.
Yes. So it's a bit like the same world of homeopathy, if you're familiar with what that is.
Yeah.
So you're looking at energetic signature, right? When you talk about bioregulator, it's just another revamp of that. And I love homeopathy, but you got to have a good source, and because it's all source. And so I'm excited about the field, but I don't think there's enough respectable players yet for me to get confident in it. So I don't recommend them yet. But
great. Yeah, that's great.
So remember, we're going to run more case studies on it. Mm-hmm. What we've done so far, we're not sure if it's just all bioregulators together or it was the sources that we were using because our results weren't that great.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay. Cool. I think done in tandem with a health process and activity and all of that, I think it's a nice thing to add, but it wouldn't be my top 5, right?
Stepping into the landscape of like the biohacking and tools that certainly your coaches are weaving into the conversations, but where are we missing the boat as a society? Like what are the things from a lifestyle choice perspective where we're just really missing the boat?
So I think one of the first things that the number one thing that people need to know is that everyone in the world needs to learn how to adapt some form of fasting or diet variation in their life. So the diet that you eat today is the diet that will hurt you tomorrow if you just stay on it. So let me explain what this means. Your body is based on a principle of hormesis. And what that means is that any stimulus that you apply, any stressor, a workout, you take on a new job, ice bath, okay? It has what's called a hormetic window. What that means is that the dose and the duration equals whether it is a positive or a poison. This is why everybody listening to the world about plants are bad and meat's bad and, beans are bad or whatever diet guru you're listening to that's trying to sell you some kind of religion by telling you what's good and bad. The reality is even inside of that food, yes, plants have toxins, but did you know that those toxins stimulate your body to make antioxidants, which actually heal you? So don't be confused. Don't let people trick you until you have the story and then make you think you know something about nutrition. So that's why it's really important to eat plants because of their toxins, because it leads to antioxidants. Let me give you an example, Kristen. Did you know that eating food is an inflammatory process? It's an oxidative process. So should we never eat? Eating's bad. It causes inflammation, right? So your body doesn't make antioxidants without a pro-oxidative event. So you need the pro-oxidative event to create the antioxidant reaction. And in the reaction, hopefully it's stronger than the event because then you have an overall antioxidant process, right? But if oxidative load that you take on is greater than the response, then you have an oxidative event or an inflammatory event. Let me give you something that you guys can easily understand. Workouts. You've never worked out before and you decide to go do 2 hours in one day. How's that going to work out for you? Not good. It's actually going to lead to tissue breakdown. You're not going to heal well. You're not going to recover well because the stimulus was too intense for too long. So the oxidative event that you created
compared to your baseline, yeah.
Right. So same thing as food. I don't know how many of you have known someone that's gone vegan and then got all messed up in their health. Because you can't go from a shit standard American diet to eating like 10, we'll say 2,000 calories of just plants and plant toxins and chickpea chicken nuggets. You're going to put so much prebiotic on your gut, and you're going to add oxalates and salicylates and like all these different plant chemicals that are going to over inundate your gut. And then if you keep doing it too long, you're going to create health issues. That's why technically I love plant-based diets, and I don't mind someone being vegan, but they need to be trained how to be vegan the right way if you're going to do it, or you're going to mess yourself up. Okay.
Yeah. And I was just having this conversation, Vince. It's like we see this a lot where someone's like, I went vegan. And the first couple of months, they're actually like, I'm thriving and I'm kind of feeling good because they went off of a crappier diet to get there. But then over a longer term period, they start to decline again, or they feel like gut dysbiosis is happening, whatever is coming up to the surface, but you're like, this is the wrong thing long term.
So you prove my point. Diet variation, right? Going extreme plant-based is a great idea for a certain period of time. Going really hard in the gym, doing 2-a-days or doing some insane training program. How long should you do it for? 8 to 12 weeks, right? Almost everything falls in a 12-week model. That sounds like something I know. A season in the year? Seasons in the year. Could it be that our physiology is adapted to seasons? No, that couldn't be, right? Our bodies are adapted for seasons. We're supposed to have new stimulus every 12 weeks because it's what creates optimum health, new collagen, DNA unfolding and making new cells. Stress is not a bad word. Stress is a stimulus of change. That's what it means. And so you are supposed to be constantly changing, right? And so now what that means on a practical level, we can talk about maybe on another podcast, but it can be something as simple of do not eat the same thing every day of your life because that diet is going to be the thing that hurts you, right? So people don't know this. And one of the ways to change that is annual periods of fasting. Fasting is one of the greatest human technologies of all time that less than 5% of the population has ever tried. Fasting changed my life. It is real. But if you do not practice it like a workout, you can't just jump into fasting. And that's why so many people have bad experiences and they go, oh, that's not good for you. That's harmful. That's this. And no, you have no idea what you're talking about. That would be like me right now going in and going, you know what? I'm going to go squat 600 pounds. Vince, you haven't squatted 400 pounds in 3 years. How are you going to squat 600? I don't know. I'm going to do it. I go in and squat 600 pounds and I break my leg. And I'll be like, oh, working out is bad. You don't want to work out. See, that sounds ridiculous, right? It's the same thing.
But can you expand a little on when you're talking about fasting, if you're talking about short-term, intermittent, or longer fasts, and sort of like,
you have to condition
there, or just, variant there?
Condition. So you do breath work? Is that what you said? You do breath work, right? So if someone does breath work, are you going to make them do like a 3-hour breath work Joe Dispenza session first? Or are you probably going to start them on something with like 15, 20 minutes, get them used to it?
No,
right?
I call that trauma point when it's like 3 hours and people are like,
I can't. Yeah, exactly. Right. You gotta work them up. You have to condition their body to breathe, use oxygen, go through the experience well. Because a body, the first time it does something, it never does anything well. Right. Mm-hmm. You have to condition it. And then you get these crazy, insane outcomes. But if somebody just hears you and goes, oh, I love this, I'm going to go try to like make myself pass out through breathing on my own, you're probably not going to have a great experience. Okay. Because that's not what you're doing, obviously, but you get where I'm going with this. I'm being silly.
For sure. I'm going to do a 10-day water fast. I've never fasted before.
Right.
It's that vibe.
Or I'm just not going to eat today, but I'm super stressed out. I overate last night and I'm not going to eat a lot today. That's not going to go well for you. And that's not how it works. Okay. Oh, I'm fasting today. No, you overate last night or feeling guilty and are feeling fat and are now trying to temporarily starve yourself. That it's totally different. And if you don't know, you don't know. And it looks the same on paper. You doing that kind of erratic lifestyle will hurt your metabolism and hurt your health. However, if you're somebody that starts cleaning up your diet, starts intermittent fasting first, or if you're younger, you can get away with pretty much everything. But if you're If you're over the age of 28 and you've never fasted before or done intermittent fasting, do not start with a 3-day water fast. My goodness. You start with time restricting, or you start with another form of fasting. So just understand that fasting just really means the removal of something. So technically, if you do keto, it's a form of carbohydrate fast. If you do carnivore, it's a form of carbohydrate fast. If you do, and maybe fats, and depending how you do your carnivores. If I do a juice fast, it is the removal of proteins and fats. Okay. If I do intermittent fast, it is reducing time. So I'm reducing my feeding window, right? So, and so you start with things like that. Another one's Daniel fasting. Daniel fasting is the removal of animal products, right? Mm-hmm. That's why vegetarian as a form of fast for a short period of time is a great idea, right? But as a lifestyle, terrible for your health permanently. I mean, without adding some things back in. So you can start with those things because you should fast at least 12 weeks worth of time every year, meaning that you break it up into a month on, a couple months off. So once every quarter, or you do a couple weeks, 2 months together, or 6-week periods of time twice a year. That's the optimum thing. So 6 weeks where I'm going to go ahead and do carnivore, or 6 weeks where I'm going to go out. I have a whole diet variation guide. If anyone's interested in this, I'll teach you these methods. This is the key to longevity. It's not fat. It's not like, oh, carnivore. There's no one diet. Like it's not real. It's not real, people. You can love the diet that you do and you can do it more often if you like. Fine. But I'm telling you now, whatever diet that you do that isn't the only diet that I know of that will completely keep people primarily balanced, because it has the most variety inside of it, is a Mediterranean or pescatarian diet. Every other diet that exists out there will cause problems at some point because of its lack of diversity. Okay? So, and you don't have to do a full 12 weeks out of the year. You can actually reduce that a bunch. If you get good at fasting, you can just do a couple fasts a year and that'll usually do it. Okay.
Yeah. It's great advice. Thanks for expounding upon that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I'm telling you now, it will make sure that your body always stays sensitive to what you're doing. You'll always feel good and you won't run into the problems that people always do by staying on the same diet all the time, because it leads to monocolonization. It leads to you growing the wrong bacteria. The foods that we eat in general grow a certain bacteria. Then that bacteria grows too high in our body and starts dumping acids. Too many acids released in our gut of one acid then leads to irritation of the immune system. The immune system is in every system of our body. So that's how things from the gut spread everywhere else. That's why a naturopath says disease begins and ends in the gut. What they really mean is disease begins and ends at the gut, because it's where the immune system starts.
Mm-hmm.
And then it spreads everywhere. That's why you can be swollen, have acne, hair shedding, your toenails have fungus, and it's all coming from your gut. It's your immune system.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. Yeah.
I've said a lot today. But if you guys, you can check me out, Vince_Pitstick, on Instagram, or go to my university, Metabolic Mentor University, if you want to learn this for yourself and teach your family. So you can go out and be a part of the fight. I'm begging you. Okay. Don't sit idly by. We just saw actually yesterday what it looks like when Americans all come together in one voice, whether you are pro or anti, Trump. That's not the point. The point is America came together, whether it was for either candidate. And that's what I want to, when we come together and we do things actually do happen, even if they seem impossible. And health is no different. It's not impossible. Yeah. Your kids do not have to grow up in this world with a lower expectation of health and what life is like with people around them. But it begins with you becoming empowered. You got to know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly you're a man who knows what he's talking about. And I really love the way that, again, you are crusading this, championing this cause. I'll link all your things in the show notes and all of those pieces. I like to wrap the show with 2 short questions. And those questions are, the first thing is, outside of the world of your work, let's just talk Vince Do you have a favorite biohack that you're just like, this is what I'm vibing on right now, in your life?
So my favorite thing that I know works and the data is good is contrast, right?
Yeah.
Contrast. I'm such a huge fan of cold and hot therapy. It's legit. It's real. Sometimes I'm focusing on the cold for certain reasons. Sometimes I'm focusing on the hot for a certain reason. I absolutely love it. I'm big on the peptide space. I love my methylene blue and my LDN. I love LDN. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a game changer for high performers. If you're a high performer, if you hear how fast my brain is probably working right now, you'll know if you want to optimize that, LDN is the thing, low dose naltrexone. There's no side effect to it. It's incredible. Those are probably the things. And again, for me, it's conscious contact with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So that's the greatest biohack of all. That's how I deal with all my stress. That's how I deal with it. I have a conscious contact with my Creator. I don't care who you call him. You just got to call him though.
Yeah, that's beautiful to have a spiritual side in that way. Yeah. And then the final question is, if you could go back to, 15-year-old Vince, maybe it's a listener who's listening in right now who's feeling a bit like, stuck, but going back to your younger self and giving yourself one piece of advice that would just help you bolster your willpower as you live into your later adult and senior years, what would that one piece of advice be?
Do not look at the challenges of your life as the problem and that it's a you issue, because where you are isn't who you are. Because I was always a lion, but I was in times of my life where I had to be humbled and taught and shown, so that doesn't mean that's who I am. It's just where I was, and who I am. I could be whoever I wanted to be if I chose. And so your environment doesn't have to dictate who you are. Your past or what people's opinions are of you does not have to become your future. And if you choose today, everything can be different. And that was something I would tell my former self, because I wish I had caught on to that sooner. And that I didn't realize that the people that go through things are the people that are of great worth and value later in life. You become the most valuable because of your wisdom and what you've been through and what you have to offer because of that experience. So you don't know it yet, but everything that you're going through that you're mad about right now will be everything that you're happy about that you went through later. So just hang on.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Such a strong, powerful, intellectual game changer of a man. I'm so glad we could spend this time together today. I really, really appreciate your work in the world. And for everyone who is looking to connect with Vince, I'm going to list all of the ways that you can. Please follow him. What's your social handle?
Vince, VINCE _ Pitstick. That is Pit and Stick. That is my last name. It is a growth opportunity as a child growing up. You can't forget it once you've heard it, though. So you can check me out over there. I've also got our YouTube where we do a lot of trainings, Metabolic Mentor. And then also you can go check out metabolicmentor.com for all of we do courses, we do certifications, we do live trainings all the time. You can join me and my band of misfits in the 1 in 100 Facebook group where we're fighting and championing for a better tomorrow.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Vince. It's been a real honor.
Thank you.